we're taught to call it a letter of agreement, yeah? I was always taught it's letter of agreement because it sounds so much nicer, but it's a contract. So however you want to frame that with your clients, and depending on how you work, I think more commercial design uses the word contract and more residential designers use letter of agreement, but they're both equal and interchangeable terms. So it is a binding agreement, and I really hope that everybody has a lawyer that's looked at this agreement, that you have an attorney that continues to make sure that your agreement is covering you, and also covering your clients, because you want to protect you, but you also want to protect the members of your firm and your clients as well. So it can really be a win or lose situation if you haven't gotten your contract or your letter of agreement buttoned up, and really make sure that it's understandable. So one of the things that I really suggest is that you set up a meeting with your clients to review that contract together. Don't just send it out via email or send it via snail mail and let them read it, because as we all know, things can be interpreted differently by different people, and it's much better if your contract is with someone that's not near enough to you to have a physical meeting, a live meeting, set up a Skype or a FaceTime or a Zoom call, and go through this agreement phrase by phrase, clause by clause. Ask any questions at many different points during the time that you're looking at it. Because I'm not sure about you, but when I first started, didn't know any better before email, I would send my contract in a beautiful envelope, a little cover letter, and then I'd sit and wait. And then I'd make the call. Did you get it? Do you have questions? And sometimes you might lose someone by doing it that way, because their interpretation might not match the intent with which you wrote the agreement. So I think it's really, really important to not just send it out. And I've had clients say to me, oh, we have, a Zoom call. Well, can you send it to me first so I can review it before the call? And I'll say, no, I really prefer it if I can just send it, and then we get right on the call so that we can just go through it together and have a live discussion. Because again, that's gonna shut off the ability for them to have perceived notions and connotations about what you're doing in that contract. So to me, it really truly is the most important phase of your entire project. Because if the contract document is not understood, fleshed out, and maybe there are some revisions that have to be made that you agree to, but be careful about that, and we'll talk more about that as we go through the conversation today. But you want to make sure that that is your strongest point. Because if you have that, then everything else can flow with ease and grace. So, what are some of the things that should be in your contract? So, I have a list here of different clauses that we always put into our contracts, if you want to snap a photo of that. And I do it where I've got, your conceptual phase, and then we move into specifications, and then we move into purchase management. And everybody phrases things a little differently. I have an interesting model. It's not as crazy as people used to think it was when I first started out, but I'm cost transparent. So when I'm purchasing for clients, I'm using their credit cards to pay for all of the goods. So I only charge for purchase management. So it's a service fee. The money's not coming into my account and leaving my account. They pay me once a month for everything that I've arranged for them, whether it's a service or a purchase. And so they're getting the benefit of my discounts, and I'm charging the 30 to 35% purchase management fee. So that's a clause, and it's very well stated in our letter of agreement, and they like that they get the miles and I don't. So it works out really well when you can phrase it that way. I also find that I have a lot less bookkeeping. A lot more designers are adopting this now because everything is transparent since the web has invaded our lives in good and bad ways. But if it's something that any of you want to talk about offline, I'm free to talk about that here. You want to always talk about the time frame of a project. How many of you have scope creep? Many times, yeah? Scope creep is like part of our existence. But if you set a time, if the project is not completed by X date, the fee schedule can be renegotiated by the designer. Then you're leaving yourself open to the flexibility of having that change and that shift. Also, when scope creep happens, don't just add on to your scope. I create an addendum to every single add-on that we do. It's a pain in the neck, but it's super